Hello, my name is Jenna Nabors, and I'm going to be presenting on the Children's Hour film adaptation um, directed by William Ryler. For starters, I'm going to quickly touch on the character and the actor choices for each character. I found this to be one of the most closely accurate actor choices for the film. I felt like that each actor that was chose for each character was perfect. Um, I mean this in the nice ways possible because I know she's a child, but the actress that played Mary, I felt was very accurate and honestly made me hate her more than I did in the play when reading it because she was very much a meddler. Like I feel like each character was done very perfectly in the way I pictured them as I was reading it. Now, for the opening scene, that's one of the things that I found. Of course, it's the opening scene, so it was the first difference from the play to the film that I saw. William Ryler chose not to have the play open in the classroom setting where Mrs. Mortar is talking to the students and reading Shakespeare and being really theatrical. That scene does happen, but it's later in the film that it happens. The opening play, the opening scene of the film, I'm not really sure what the thought process was for that. I it opened on two girls playing the piano and like all the students were watching and Mary was bullying another student but there was no dialogue, there was nothing. I'm not really sure what the point was for that. I really feel like Ryler should have stuck with the original opening scene, but I guess to establish the environment of the school that they were in, I can see why he thought that. I'm not really sure, honestly. Another thing that I found different, that I also found weird, honestly, that happened was after Mary faked having like heart attack symptoms and stuff. After that, and she was told that she could not go to the boat races, all of her leaving campus privileges and everything like that were taken away from her. She was throwing this huge tantrum, and that scene itself was very well accurate to the playwright. I found that that's the way it was played out was exactly what I thought in my head. However, probably the weirdest part of the scene or of the film, honestly, was Joe as he's leaving the room giving Mary a spanking, like just popping her and walking away. I found that very weird and also unnecessary. I mean, of course, I can see why Ryler would choose to do that because he could have been trying to establish Joe as the paternal figure for Mary. I'm not really sure, but I just found it really unnecessary and it wasn't brought up again in the film and discussed. It just happened. And I feel like it was more of an improv thing. And Ryler was like, all right, let's keep it in. But other than that, I really did not see the point of it. The next thing that was also a lot different to this was the scene where the major conflict scene that happened, where Mary is telling Mrs. Tilford about the rumors that she's heard about Martha and Karen. In the play, they are sitting in uh, Mrs. Tilford's house after Mary had walked to her house for the majority of the time and then got a bus ticket and she was dirty and she was like begging to stay at the house. However, in this film, Martha had taken a cab to the house I mean, not Martha, Mary had taken a cab to Mrs. Tilford's house immediately. And it was in the car ride back to the school that Mary tells Mrs. Tilford about it. And the scene played out where instead of immediately calling Rosalind's mother like she did in the play, she ended up running into Mrs. Mortar, who confirmed that for her after she was planning on confronting Martha and Karen right off the bat, and that didn't happen. And then she left and immediately stopped by Rosalind's house afterwards. Another thing, now this is a small thing that happened with it, was Martha's death scene. I understand why Ryler chose to have her have hanged herself instead of shooting herself, because it definitely added more emotion having having Karen have to break down Martha's door to get in and find her there. I understand that. um the way that Karen kind of came to the conclusion that Martha had committed suicide was a little weird. I guess she just was supposed to have had like the conclusion in her head with the film, but in the play, she hears the gunshot and that's how she knows about Martha committing suicide. And so I understand the hanging part of it. Um but I just found that a little interesting that that was the choice of um death that uh Martha had chosen for herself within the film. Now, the window analogy and image was heavily discussed in class, and as I was watching this film, I kept yelling, "Where is the window? Where is the window?" Because this is where I feel like Ryler had fallen short for the play. In the playwright, the window is essentially its own character. The window can be kind of concluded as being or representing many different things, whether it's the depression, the numbness, the confusion, the understanding, the conclusion, the just kind of acceptance of the whole thing. And it it really does add a lot of emotion within the play. However, the film did not utilize the window at all. The only time it did was, as you can see in this image, where Martha is looking outside of it and choosing to commit suicide by looking out the window after watching Karen walk away. I found that very interesting. I do wish the window would have been utilized more. I do wish, as I discussed, the closing scene was more closely to what Hellman had written instead of what the film had done. But I'll discuss that now. The closing scene was different in many ways. In the play, the last scene you see of Karen is she's looking out the window, and um, some can see that it's her kind of accepting the loss of Martha and accepting her life with Joe, even though she ends things in the film with Joe. Um, but, and I really love that image within the play. The film did not use that at all. And I feel like it didn't establish the numbness that Karen had started feeling after Martha had passed away or committed suicide. The film, the last scene that you see of Karen and just in general is Karen walking away from Martha's gravesite, and she's walking away with a somewhat of a smirk on her face. And I guess as an audience, you can kind of come up with the same conclusions or close to the same conclusions as you can when you're watching her in the play looking out the window. Where to me, whenever I was watching it, the smirk that she had on her face kind of represented her acceptance to what she was going to do. In the play, I never really kind of came to a full on conclusion of whether Karen killed herself or not. But in the film, I did come to that conclusion, um, because I felt like she was kind of at peace with her decision after that. My final thoughts for the film: I love this film. Um, One of the things that I feel like this film did really good on, but aside from picking the characters and stuff, was the emotion that you felt within it. They added Weiler added scenes where men would come in and just watch Martha and Karen, and it really highlighted the ostracized feeling that they had towards society and the otherness that was placed on them. I found myself, the play itself is sad, but I found myself getting really sad while watching the film because you see the emotions, the music, the acting. I really enjoyed this film. I really think it was a good representation of the children's place. And the relationship between Martha and Karen was so genuine and so heartfelt. And it really it I never really came to the conclusion of whether Karen had a loving feeling for Martha, but in the film, I kind of came to that conclusion that she did have those loving feelings for Martha as well, just didn't want to explain it. But this film was a great adaptation, and um, the main thing that I took away from it was the pure emotion that I felt and gathered from this film. Thank you.